All right, so welcome to this first MDriven Wednesday session for the year, and we will continue to have them run them once a month, the last Wednesday in each month.
But look at who is showing up here.
Oh,
Hi,
Alexandra.
Hello, Dennis will come like shortly.
All
So
right.
yeah, it's nice to see you, all of you.
Oh,
Long time no see.
Yeah,
very.
really.
Sharp.
So let's dive right into it. We said that maybe Stephanie, you had a few points that you want to mention, and if you do, it's great. If you don't, that's fine as well. So what do you think?
Um, wow. I don't think I have much to say today, but
No?
I definitely will be back to say something
Yeah,
eventually.
good, good, good.
For sure. Yeah.
I'm gonna turn on my screen sharing. Let's see
It's
if.
fantastic to see such a huge MDriven team gathering,
Mm,
even including our, well, the German X team.
the
We are very
MDriven
from everyone.
MDriven alumni.
Mhm.
Mm, mm,
Yeah.
I hope saying about that. I hope we could get someone from the university in Uganda. That would be great, Martin. If you could push some of them to join here.
I will make it a point next time to at least have someone representing the university here.
Yeah, and now Stephanie has prepared like a little right an image that pushes for it that she posted. Maybe you can use that and put that up in front of them and say, why not come and join us here? Mhm.
mm.
I'll get in touch with Stephanie and get the image, push for it.
Mhm.
Yeah, good. So what we have done since last time, and that's almost, yeah, that's yeah, we skipped December, so it's 2 months ago, and it's more to push web first, you can say. So the live editor here for that sort of is going to replace in the end the VPF editor. The VPF view model editor, as we know it, worked this way that it didn't have any data. It was just the static rendering of a view model. And the live editor that we introduced actually ran the full application. And that was something in between this view model editor and this play button. So that's why it renders as also the play button and the view model editor. But what we are doing now is the ability to render the web UI without data. And that might initially feel like a limitation, but it's actually quite good because that means that the web UI, the server isn't model dependent. So if I change the model and if the server doesn't know my model, it can still render all these things. So that's a good change. So if I were to do changes in the tree, like adding a placing container, and well, we can, I guess I should go into the single view here and then add a placing container here. There's what we can do right in the image here is to rearrange things by just pulling in this orange dot. Yeah, that one. Let's see if. Yeah. So and one thing that is new is, since this is quite common that we come from a long list of edit controls and then a grid down below, is a function that we call columnar layout. And I didn't invent that name myself. I asked ChatGPT what a function that do exactly this should be called. And I'm not sure it's a good name. But see if anyone can figure out what will happen. But basically, it will take everything within the placing container to look for single controls and place them in a tabular fashion to columns, and the grid down below, and expanding the grid. So I think this is a practical thing that comes in handy quite often when setting up UIs. So let's show that once more. Child items to columnar layout sort of pushes everything into these two columns. And those columns will also wrap if space is tight. So it will work nicely on a mobile device. And since this view now is the main, at least we want to promote it as the main editor view, we have the ability to see the link between what's in the tree and what's in the rendered UI. So when I click something, there's a red yellow dot showing up. And also the other way around, when I click an orange dot, I can see where that is in the tree to help my eye to see where we are. And also the orange dot has the full menu. So you can add another column straight from here. To get the more detailed edit, one needs to fold out these controls, and those are available just as they were in the editor before, but you can hide them away if you're not doing a lot of expressions. From here, or anywhere really, from the menu, when we add columns, there's a new thing to add multiple columns, because before we had to pick either write the expression yourself or pick them one by one here. But now there's this pick from model, which makes the auto diagram pop up. And here we can actually add all the columns once more. And this also can add nestings if that's what we want. Let's try if I want to add these two columns and the nesting to value store and add selected as view model columns. I get a lot of things added immediately. So that's a quicker way to get what's available in the model into your view. And if we compare this against how the live edit works, we switch to the live edit, you can see that live edit then turns on the whole menu and the left side, but otherwise it will try to render the UI the same way. The difference here is that we have data. Of course, view one thing here in this case requires a root object, and we don't have a root object, so it's not fully functioning that way. But we can go back to view all things and create a thing, and now we also should have a root object. Let's see. Yeah. And I was a bit confused. I thought this green dot would have gotten the value of the, if I go here and then go back, yeah, then I've lost the root object. So the point here was that this should remember the root object. Let's see. I'm going to add another number 2 and take view one thing. Now I got the number up here. That means that this will be remembered even if I switch to view edit. Now it's just the UI and no data, and I can move things around here. If I want to drop this in this placing container, I would go like this. And then switch back to live edit, and the root object is still there, and the data follows along. That's quite practical to smoke out changes that happens only with data. Should be easy to go back and forth here. Also, it should be easy to go to the debugger for the same information. There's a hand up, please.
I'm just curious, is this implemented using the new Blazor things, or is it?
Yeah, so
maybe that is irrelevant, but I'm just curious.
It's a good question actually, because live edit from before is Angular, so this is still Angular, but this view is Blazor. So the trained eye can see the subtle differences between these two. They shouldn't be too obvious, and we're working continuously to sort of remove any differences. If I take this in a browser, when it's app hashtag, it's Angular. And if I take another one and replace the hashtag with an L, Apple, it's Blazor. So now we can spot the differences. Oh, apparently this is collapsed. Oh, it renders strange because there's no columns in. Well, there are. Not sure why this is.
Will be weird. I don't know.
Yeah. So that was unexpected. I'm not sure what happens with this one.
I don't want to derail the whole presentation.
No.
I was curious.
Yeah. So it's a bit of a mix. So and you can just stand here and press F12 to. Oh, ended up on the other screen. To get then you see how the Blazor rendering looks, and that's really clean, just HTML visible. And if you were to do the same thing in the Angular one, it's a bit more JavaScript things noticeable in the page. Yeah.
Sorry, I just have another question that I think others might find interesting too, and that is there any examples yet of when we put like code inside the browser that is a C#, so that, for example, let's say I would like to read barcodes with a mobile phone camera, not QR codes, like read barcodes using the camera like interactively. Can I put code then inside our client nowadays?
Not straight up, because what you need to do then is to have access to the APIs on the phone, and you don't get that being a web page. You need to request that from inside the phone, and the easiest way, I think the easiest way, is actually to have an app shell that loads a Blazor app, and then you would be able to get the API points within the phone. And you can do this with Visual Studio and Maui, but most likely you would just drop in a web view to render the user interface with with HTML instead of building the widgets with the Maui, which is doable, but then you're left up to how Microsoft have interpreted how things should look on iPhone versus on Android, etc.
I guess to just mention, so because it's quite possible, I with JavaScript it seems, so you have access to the camera from JavaScript, so then I thought, but it's still cooler if it runs more stable, I can imagine, in WebAssembly.
Yeah, so basically what Blazor does is, since it allows also for server-side Blazor, it has some caveats when it comes to events, back and forth between the UI. And not everything is actually doable to implement in C#. So there's a few things that we still need JavaScript for. I'm not sure, I haven't tried to reach the APIs. Well, of course, we do reach the APIs for geolocation.
But we don't need to go to solve the problem. I was just, let's touch on it. The other thing then, just again to explore what's possible, and that would be to run. I know we have done it many years ago. We were running the whole like stack inside the phone. So I was just curious if you see if it would be then now will be possible to make hybrid clients that would actually have store data and run a modeled application within the WebAssembly, and at the same time render this from the server, because that's kind of almost the holy grail to have a hybrid application, because you most of the time would like it to talk to the server. But for some things it would be great if you like fell off the internet, how that now happens, so then that you would like fall back on some basic functionality, and you don't need to explain the whole thing, but what you see for the future is more what I was curious.
So I don't think we will have much trouble doing that. Of course, it's always as I see it, there will be views that are client side and views that are server side, and there will be actually two models. One model that's the client side model, and one model that is the server side model. And then you need to pick and choose. Is this something that's only going to work when you're online? Well, then it's a clear view that's only on the server side. But is this a thing that you also want it to work with a local cache? Then you implement it in the client model, and then you maybe use REST APIs to fill it with data to fill or maintain your local cache. And maintaining your local cache is, of course, problematic, but that's where this Tyson strategy is really great, I think, because that lets you describe object structures with the view models. So if we were to bring up a seeker here for like this thing.
Maybe I'm taking you too far off now, Hans. You were showing these other things. I was just exploring what these new, I've been thinking about what does these new tech stack give us for future, not now things. And because then you could have a hybrid application that had some offline features, and then you can use them. And probably it's easier to talk straight to the server when you come online and just sync up things. And that's probably easy things like taking a picture of something or making a quick note, and then you send that up to the server, and then it shows in the user interface. But
yeah,
please continue with your planned
yeah
thing.
Like there's a plan. But anyway, I think it's an interesting line of questioning to how you're gonna deal with the scenario that you have a local context where you don't have access to the net, and you have gotten some data in JSON format, and if you have the full stack on the phone, you can just you can choose. Maybe you choose to have a CQ-Lite database to store the local data in, or maybe you just have the XML persistent storage. Depends on what you want to do, really. I would probably go with the XML persistent storage initially, because then you don't have to think about evolve of the client-side model the same way. And then just pull data with the JSON down to the client, and then merge that in, just to make a copy of the view model on both sides. And if things change on the server, like they always do, you just can assume that that data will end up getting back to, now we're running against a XML file, so the refresh is not perfect. Let's see if I gonna need to restart the server in order to get this one to.
I think it's also that when I see Damien and thinking about his projects and what he wants to do, I know he wants to have something that has some kind of wow factor with his clients, both his current like actual car clients, but then also for other companies that might want to use his system. So I'm just also like looking at things. How do you get some wow factor somewhere? Is that like a really smooth app experience with chatting and all that? But then also, does that always work, or do you fall offline, or is it cooler that you have an app that you install, or is that a bad thing? So I'm just exploring these things also from that perspective of how do we go about so that we create some cool things that makes not our product but our customers' product more like, wow, these guys are up front there in something. And we have looked at AI. You showed that, for example, but of course AI needs to be data driven. Although they're very cool, they don't know the order number or the license plate, hopefully.
Yeah. So, but as I feel what we're moving towards with the ability to, since we have now the full ability to do placing containers and all the UI controls from in the box, plus the ability to do external components when that is necessary. We cover most of the needs for any type of information carrying app. But of course, styling is important, and there's a as you, Alexandra, know, there's lots of work going into massaging the CSSs to get what you want in the end. And to defer that work as much as possible, one can use the styles in models to get further faster.
By the way, I like this. Sorry for interrupting. I like this right side sort of toolbar there for your kind of navigation through different additional details and edits. I haven't seen that much before, so that's why. Yeah, that's cool. I like it. Sorry for interrupting.
No problem. But to work with the simple styling, but staying in the model, not needing to break up your CSS knowledge, one can do the styles in model, and that shows up like this. And basically you create a new style, and this style then gets a name. Can call it my style. And a style is then targeted on different levels. So if I were to use this my style on this field, for example, I can pick a style, my style, use style. So this is just a string. I can write anything here. So if I have external CSS, I can use that. But it's easy to use this pick style to find it. And if I want to target the whole component, I shouldn't do that. I should activate the component level and maybe set a color. And there's no color, so I need to add a color. And I'm gonna make that kind of yellow. And the fill color should be that color. And what we should see here, preferably, is that color taking effect. But it doesn't. So component seems to have some effect. So I'm gonna do another. I'm gonna continue a bit with the styling, and it will kick in a while. I can activate it on a grid cell, etc. And I'm gonna do the inverse there just to prove a point. And now if I want this to get my style reference, so there it kicks in, and now I can see this is misaligned, and that's because the style also controls the alignment, and I would want to set that to middle then, I guess, to get back. Let's see why this didn't work. So I can copy this one to here. Oh, I need to activate that, and then I can paste that in. No, I should, okay. Delete target and then paste. Oh, it doesn't seem to work.
Can I ask a question, Hans?
Yes.
And that is, if you're fluent in CSS like Alexandra, is there a way to see the CSS here? Because I know it creates CSS, right? But can
Yes.
one like see it if one wants to like, what happened here?
Yeah. So the CSS will be generated by logic on the server, and it's one of, why can't I see it?
It's inside the page, I think. I was more thinking if it even generated it so you could bring it up in the designer, but maybe that is. Because sometimes I've been thinking about, if you are to transition from only handwritten CSS to something that is a hybrid, it probably takes steps. And then you would kind of want to see, it's like, okay, I did this, so now how do I need to adjust my block of CSS to work with this styles and model?
Yeah. Not sure why it isn't.
Yeah, just like an idea, as you said, it would be nice to see the CSS there, like underneath this my like style wrap there. It's always like at the bottom as it just a text, like item by item. You can still see the CSS that is applied just as a text there. But yeah, it would be nice as an idea. But yeah, it's might be really useful to understand what's going on if you don't understand what's happening on the screen. Yeah.
Yeah. So currently I am at a loss why I can't see it in. Oh, it's in the head, of course. So I was looking at the wrong place. So this is the target. So if I open this in a new page, oh, it ended up on another screen. So this is the CSS that was generated from this. We can see that my style and the colors, etc., are generated from this. So there's not much strangeness to this. And once you, yeah, I'm not sure why this is. What you also can do if you want to work with your own CSS is, of course, to work with the view assets. So you can either make a complete CSS for your application, a TICO user CSS like this, and then you would just open this in any tool that you have and write things straight here, and then you can make sure that this is synced, and then we will watch the file, and whenever you do changes to this file, let's see. Oh, small screen. So if we were to F12 this to see, so this is called view model section, ID view model section. So if I were to take this one and say hashtag view model section, background blue, and that would immediately take
Nice.
effect
I mean,
there.
ugly but good.
Yeah. So that's one way to work with the CSS for the whole app. And then there's these content theme, so you can use them. There's also ways to do it per page. If you have pages that deviates from your application standard, you can do a lot of things per page. So all in all, it's nothing that limits you in any way. Maybe it's not helping you along as much as it will do in the future, but there's no limits. There's no glass ceilings that you can't pass. And
what I think, just to add to what can be done and how to think about it, what I would like to do in a large project is to introduce, you could say, global variables and things like color schemes and things, and define them here in the styles in model. And then because there's like 100 CSS files, so they need to be worked on one by one. And then the possibility is to migrate over from things defined in the CSS to defining more and more things here. So that's why I was looking at if we can define, for example, global styles or color schemes in styles and model.
yeah,
That
so
then can be used in our own CSSs.
okay, yes. So just to get back to this one, I put the style on the wrong thing. So I must first select the column and then pick the style if I want it. So it's really nothing strange here. It's just that I need to target the right control in order to see it. So but as you alluded to, the color scheme, so this is like this orange and the white background, etc. That's part of the theme. And regarding the theme, it's controlled by a lot of constants that are used in our standard CSSs. And those constants can be changed by making the theme colors available. So once you do that, you get all the constants. And then you can go like the base background should really be, in my theme, this kind of light purple. And then that would immediately hit the application like that. And that would go over all pages unless you override it. So what I'm thinking is that we have all these color constants, but we also have some integer and string constants that we haven't exposed this way. And we're going to expose those as well in this dialog so that you can, for example, fine-tune how high the menu bar should be, etc. So that's something that will come within not too long. Let's see. One cool thing that I think became really, really great is the ability to cell select. So this is something that's available in all the grids. So if I select in the grid, I can got this added to clipbook, and then I can paste and it asks because it's a browser, so I say allow once. And now if I have twos, things, oops. I will be able to get that as tab separated data. That of course goes into Excel, and then I can change it in Excel to something else. And now I also got the header row, and the rule is that the header row is copied if the cell select goes over all columns. If it doesn't go over all columns but only a subset of the columns, then the headers are not included. And that's practical for different purposes. So if I write 1, 2, and 3 here, and then copy this and paste it in, it also pastes over multiple cells. And this is good for many reasons, mainly because it much more what a desktop app would have than a web app. This is quite uncommon in web applications, but it's very handy because users always want to import or export data for different purposes. And yes.
So, does this even work with a age-old feature that we kind of lost when we moved to the web to create new rows?
Yes, so we have this thing called the what has gone under the name as the Excel plugin. The ability to take any tabular data and also create a row from it. So what that requires is it's a bit more convoluted because you need a seeker in order to have a unique key, so you know when to create a new row. But this will not create a new row unless if there are rows, it will fill them, but it won't create them. So you would need to sort of manually create rows before pasting in things. If you stand here, the last row is lost in the paste. But then you can go like this and replace a whole column.
Okay. Yeah, I know it was complicated because it might feel simple, but it is difficult to know exactly how to handle a whole chunk of data being pasted. For example, to create the key that holds it, and should it be created if the row already exists? And that's what you talk about, the seeker. That logic looks up if there's an existing row that has that value, I think that is to the leftmost value, and then updates in some cases and creates in others.
Yes, so it's not that hard to come by, and it's quite handy. So if we were to just do a if we're here, we can add a new view model, and from there we say advanced edit and say that that is rooted in thing, and then we do UI first and say that this is a seeker auto form, and we have the sum string as the first column, because then we're going to use that as the key. And we make sure that this search on sum string, which it does. So if I now search, if I need to switch to live edit and use search, I can see that this pops up. And the trick is to add an action called create new, or create row, it should be called. And that pops up on the other screen as well. Create new. And that action should basically do thing create. And what we will...
And the reason, yeah, just add on, and the reason that it needs to have an action like that is because sometimes it's not as easy as just creating the object, right? There might be many things going on to properly create something.
Yeah. And suppose then that we want to import data, then we would be able to... The idea is to be able to paste in data like this. Yeah, maybe that's a tall order today.
Aren't you supposed to paste it in the filter there?
No. Yeah, now it replaced it anyway. Let's see. Oh, it's so small, so I'm gonna switch the window, but let's see. No, that's the wrong one. Got too many views here. Open up in browser. Thank you. And then this is my seeker. Search. And this doesn't have a key, so that's gonna confuse things. I'm gonna set the key here, some string. And if I then have new data like 222, just gonna see if I search for yeah, so that's one of the first things. Standing here and pressing. No, it doesn't work. It should, what it should do is, so this is a work in progress, so to speak. You should be able to paste in a whole chunk of new data, and it should create new rows and fill in that data straight off. And that would mean that we don't need the Excel plugin anymore, that we have all the logic straight in the client to pour in data under controlled circumstances, because you own this create new action, and you can decide what to do with it. And you also, and this can of course receive transient data initially to have business rules to see what you should do with the imported data. But it turns out that this kind of functionality shows up everywhere. You talk to someone in your organization and they need to update 100 items, new prices from the vendor, and they got an Excel from the vendor in email, so they need to find a way to import that. And so building these kind of UIs where you allow to find things on a key and just paste in the data solves tons of problems for the end user without the need to do specific UIs, use cases. Good.
We only have 5 minutes left. I'm thinking, are there any other things, questions, or things which we can bring up, or any other news that we are looking at?
There's one thing we call the style check, and what that does is it just brings in all the controls with all the styles that we have. So now we don't have that many styles, but then you can pinpoint how would it look on an edit box. My style would look like this in an edit box. And what if it was presented in a grid? It would look like this. So that goes back to how I define my styles. And how would it look as a placing container? it would look like that. So that's one way to look at the styles. And you can go the other way to check only a specific style. Now I only have one, so it's no difference. But that's one way to get a complete legend of how the styles render given the current circumstances. And this isn't limited to the style scene model because this is working on CSS. So what you can do with the style scene model is to create things that you don't activate here, but instead write in CSS. And they will also then show up in this overview. So you always have a good overview of what styles you have, so you don't, which is fairly common, that you reinvent your styles just because you didn't remember that there was a small green narrow thing style already. So I think that's helpful.
So anyone has questions? Otherwise, I'm going to ask another question or continuation of another talk we had.
For me, just a quick remark. Yeah, I love it, like style check thing. It's like an overview of the UI kit, and it's pretty much not that intuitive to understand what the style check it, but when once you see it, you realize that it's kind of like checking your style library. So yeah, I think it's really cool. Also, the new feature.
Good. Glad you liked it.
Great. I haven't used it myself, but it's like it's Dennis made a whole site we called Style Check, but then you had to manually update it, and now it's like a built-in feature that it generates out the Style Check thing into the browser without you having to manually update it all the time. You as a person or we as a company, because it's generated now. I've just saw, if I can indulge on that, someone who used DeepSeek, the new thing, right, that everyone talks about, and it wrote something to blink LEDs on a small breadboard chip or something, like small. But Hans talked about the ability, and I think you also wrote that it seems like DeepSeek knows our wiki content quite well, and also then how will we going forward utilize both AI to answer questions about how to use our tools the traditional way, but then we also touched on the ability to actually talk, maybe even with a voice, I imagine, and ask to change the model. So you can say, hey, add a relationship to that class, and it does that right away. Or it's like, so my hope was that we could end up with that you don't necessarily need to know how to click in our tool, that you can tell it what to do and it will do that for you on the modeling surface. I understand it's not a thing right now, but we are not super far from it. So it's an interesting prospect, because I think the problem with the very cool example I saw was, and I've seen there are many companies now that basically generate tens of thousands of rows of code. But that is it's like worsening the problem, really. It's not adding understanding to what we are developing. So, I mean, it's not a bad thing that can be done when code is needed, but it's even cooler here if you have a graphical user interface and you could just ask it to do things like, yes, in this view model, add a relationship to this class. Okay, and then it would like show, is this what you mean? Yeah, kind of. And then that is added, and then you can say, yeah, and to the new class, hey, add these attributes, and then it can like say,
Yeah,
you mean
so
these?
So it's important to make the distinction that you don't want the AI to write code for you, because you will be the maintainer. So that's just having someone putting shit in your lap. What you want is to have someone to help you expand the specification that you can show to anyone.
Mm.
And hopefully that's a good generator of view models. I think that would be a good application.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So we could have AI-assisted modeling and view model editing and things like that. That because a view model and a view is not so unintelligible also to the AI that it can't understand what you're saying, because that's one of the problems. Almost I've seen the AI don't understand. It's like generating a new application. But hey, that's a one-time thing that you're new to solving a problem. You want the AI to assist you in working on the existing program.
That's the whole wizard problem, that it's easy to go from scratch to something, but to go from something to something slightly different is almost impossible.
Well, slightly different and manageable.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think that is a it's a very interesting thing if we could work with models in this, because the AI will be vastly better at working with modeled information than it would be on source code, because source code is both the technical aspect and the business aspect, and that really makes it difficult to know what you're talking about. But if you're in the model, you're only talking the rules of the application logic. So I think there we have I'm just excited to see where this will take modeled driven, because then it's not a click thing anymore. You can actually maybe talk to the tool, and the tool models with you as a help and it will work much better than with source code to have graphical models.
Yeah. Good final words. We will break there. Thank you very much for showing up tonight, and hope to see you next time.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we stop the recording, I have one question just to Alexandra, if she saw my message in Slack.